Salut mes amis, it's Alex. And I recently watched this video and it's not good. I mean, it's great, but there's one part missing. And it's this little part in the middle where he talks about inflation. He describes inflation interestingly, and I think we need to dive in deeper to truly understand if Mario can actually retire. He describes inflation really well, but I think there's a little more nuance we could look into and ultimately decide if Mario will be able to retire.
So you may ask, what is inflation? Picture this, you're in the Mushroom Kingdom jumping on Goombas collecting coins, and then out of nowhere, the price of a super mushroom at your favorite Toad house skyrockets. That's right, that's inflation in action. It's just like what happened in the summer of 2022 when all the gas prices rose after Russia invaded Ukraine. And that, my friends, is inflation. As the great economist Milton Friedman once said, inflation always is and everywhere a monetary phenomenon. In the simplest terms, it's a hidden tax that erodes the value of your money over time. It's like someone secretly adding extra coins to the game and making each one of your coins worth even less. How's inflation calculated? Calculating inflation is like finding hidden power-ups. We take a basket of goods and compare those prices over time. In our analysis, we're going to be taking a basket of mushrooms, another one of syrups, and every other item used by Mario in his various RPG adventures. Calculating inflation can be tricky. There are various methods and various ways of deciding what specific items should go into a basket of goods, the weight of each of those items in that basket, and what to do when an item is on sale or the quantity expected is greater or less than the mean for that product. Moreover, it is a very important job to calculate inflation accurately. As Janet Yellen, the former chair of the United States Federal Reserve, said, inflation is ultimately about the cost of living. It helps us understand how purchasing power is affected. And finally, how does inflation affect a consumer's purchasing power and the cost of living? Imagine you've just saved up a bunch of coins, planning to buy a new beach house. However, with inflation, the prices keep rising faster and faster than you and Mario could ever afford. Suddenly, purchasing power takes a hit and it's harder to afford that beautiful, beautiful beach house. Inflation can hurt consumers hard by diminishing their purchasing power. John Maynard Keynes, a renowned British economist, described it as the confiscation of the fruits of our labor. It's like a stealthy enemy that suddenly reduces the value of everything you earn, making everything from groceries to gadgets to gizmos to beach houses even more expensive. To help calculate inflation, we will be using Super Mario RPG as our baseline. The game was released in 1994, so that will also be our baseline year. We'll also be using the mean value of each item group type, as I explained before. So in other words, we're going to be creating one basket of mushrooms, which Mario uses to heal, another one of syrups, which are used to restore flower points, and every other item is just lumped together somewhere else. And we'll also be looking at 5 different Mario RPGs in order of their release year. So starting with Super Mario RPG, then Paper Mario, Mario & Luigi Superstar Saga, Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door, and then Mario & Luigi Bowser's Inside Story. There is an argument to be made for in technically different Mario adventures, but in my eyes, they all stem from Super Mario RPG and continue Mario RPG elements. And we're not considering the newer Paper Mario games because those aren't as great. I'm looking at you, Sticker Star. To help me calculate inflation a little bit easier, I created a Python script. And yeah, so I just ran some numbers, and after running through the math, which takes a simple % change in the value of the basket from one game to the next, nothing too complicated, we first get our numbers for the mushroom basket. And when going from Super Mario RPG to Paper Mario, we see an inflation rate of 36.29%. When going from Paper Mario to Mario & Luigi Superstar Saga, we see an increase of 306.18%. That's huge. And then going from Mario & Luigi Superstar Saga to Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door, we experienced some deflation, some extreme deflation, I might add, at a rate of negative 72.42%. And when going from Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door to Mario & Luigi Bowser's Inside Story, we experienced some more deflation at a rate of negative 4.25%. And now let's jump over to the syrup basket. From Super Mario RPG to Paper Mario, we saw a deflation rate of negative 22.27%. From Paper Mario to Mario & Luigi Superstar Saga, we saw a huge increase in inflation at 434.21%. From Mario & Luigi Superstar Saga to Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door, we saw a deflation rate of negative 84.74%. And from Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door to Mario & Luigi Bowser's Inside Story, we saw another huge increase in inflation at 352.59%. The crazy part isn't that inflation is really high or that deflation is really low and that prices decrease really quickly, is that the price stability is non-existent. And this can make it really hard for any economy or any person to plan for the future.
And now that we better understand inflation and what's going on in the Mushroom Kingdom, will Mario be able to retire? No. The hard thing about the Mushroom Kingdom is the prices keep on changing. Some years we experience really high inflation, some other years we experience very bad deflation. And that's one of the jobs of the United States Federal Reserve, is to promote price stability. It's just really hard to tell. The Mushroom Kingdom's price stability is out of whack. So even if Mario retires this year when inflation's good, it'll be hard to predict in the future what kind of inflationary pressures there'll be when Mario retires. Meaning we won't know what kind of lifestyle Mario will be able to afford. And that's a tricky part about figuring out retirement and retirement lifestyles. We expect prices to increase subtly as the economy grows. And most economies around the world have some type of set target inflation rate, whether it be 2%, 5%, 7%, or even 15%. These different inflation rates help the economy, both in terms of consumers and producers, understand how price differences will look like a year, 2 years, 3 years from now, allowing them to build capital assets, change wages, or invest properly. Because of the terrible situation that there is in the Mushroom Kingdom, Mario will never be able to retire. And this demands immediate action. I and my comrade believe that our mustachioed friend deserves some type of retirement. He deserves a break. He deserves to live out his golden year. So let's see what we can do for our friend, Mario.
And now that we know about the economic uncertainty facing Mario and all the inhabitants of the Mushroom Kingdom, what can we do? What parallels can we take from real life and help ensure that people in the Mushroom Kingdom and everywhere else can afford a safe and happy retirement? Idea number 1, implement a central bank. As far as I'm concerned, there is no central bank in the Mushroom Kingdom, meaning that there's no way for money supply to be managed. In other words, it means that money flows freely and illegally sometimes within this economy. And without a central bank, there isn't a sense of stability and price controls circulating the economy, meaning no one really knows where prices are going. The next idea would be to invest in education and skills training. Enhancing the skills of the workforce can increase productivity and overall economic output. By investing in education and skills training programs, each citizen within the Mushroom Kingdom can boost the economy, improve efficiency, and potentially counter inflationary pressures by being able to switch careers, find better paying jobs, and overall increase the overall productivity and value of their economic goods and services. The last idea I have on my list, which might be a little controversial, is to foster trade and global relationships with other countries and kingdoms. Opening up trade opportunities with neighboring partners and even our enemies helps increase competition, allows for cheaper imports, allows people to have a greater variety of choices in goods and services, increases productivity and innovation as education is shared between everyone. And yeah, those are just a few ideas I have on my mind to help lower inflation. And there are other things too that I think would be helpful, but aren't necessarily essential at this moment. One being encouraging competition, because as competition increases within the economy, entrepreneurship grows and it levels the playing field for new businesses by lowering the barriers to entry. We could also increase agricultural output, assuming that mushrooms and syrups are agricultural commodities, thus having more supply than there is demand in the market could help bring down the prices for mushrooms and syrups. And yeah, these are just a few ideas that I have on my mind. And remember, tackling inflation is a big problem. Just look at the United States Federal Reserve and every other central bank currently trying to figure out how to lower inflation. There's a lot of different policy tools, both in terms of monetary policy and fiscal policy, to help lower inflation and even combat the bigger problem, deflation. Surely eventually the economy will be resilient enough to grow and figure out what to do with inflation, but in the meantime, things look pretty bleak for our friend Mario.
And now that we have a few potential ideas on how to help Mario, I think it's about time we write a strongly worded letter to Princess Peach. It's about time we give her a peach of our mind. And we're ready to send off our letter. It'll get there eventually. Look, we already got an official response. I wonder what it says. Oh look, it's official. I'm an enemy of the state.